let's go down to advanced, because this is usually more like company setup stuff. So your fiscal year, this has to do with, again, primarily if you're like a C corporation, you may have your fiscal year start in the middle of the year, maybe June to July. And if that's true, then you would change that here.
A lot of the nonprofits are like that too. They have special,
And then you can set your accounting method, accrual versus cash. I'm willing to bet as more and more people are really moving to QuickBooks Online Advanced, most people would be using accrual-based method. Cash versus accrual, super fast example version of it. If it's cash basis, I'd like to use the example of like insurance. So if, let's say in February, you prepay your insurance for the entire year, in cash basis, the entire expense is recognized in February when you pay it, where an accrual basis, you would actually you would have to take the money that was paid, put it into a prepaid expense account, and then expense it to each month as it's actually being used or accrued. You've accrued the use of it, I should say. And then the close of books, this is a feature that is very seldom used, but very, very powerful. It's to make sure for us accountants that things get locked down and there's no prior period changes. It also keeps applications, third-party apps, and their dirty data grabs from making changes on accident in historical data also.
Really helpful for sales tax people.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. Enable account numbers. You can enable account numbers, but you don't have to show them. So it doesn't show up. If you click show, it's going to actually put it on the side of the chart of accounts. So I'm going to duplicate my tab and I can show you that real quick. And duplicating the tab made it to where I can literally just go back and be like, continue right where I was at without having to redo everything. So in accounting, right now, we've got our chart of accounts, but we don't see any numbers. Come back here. I'm going to put show them. We could do tip account too. We don't need it right now. Save. Spinning wheel. Refresh this one. And two things happen. Numbers are shown here, right? But numbers in the front of the name as well. If I come back here and I actually do enable account numbers but don't show the account number that way, hit save.
Takes those off.
Yes. And where that comes into play is when you're trying to type in an account for categorizing things real quick. If you know your numbers inside and out, you can start with the number and you use it for the searching function that way. Boom. But the numbers, if I come back here and I choose to add those in, will still be there. Kind of a little tip. And then your classes and locations. This is one of the big reasons a lot of people would end up going to advanced, so it's kind of important to show that these would be here. You've got the ability that you can do one to an entire transaction or one for each of the rows. So if you're doing a lot of invoices that you have to split up, maybe you're creating bills that are being expensed to different properties, you would probably want to have the ability for each row to have its own class. You're familiar with that side of it, Linda, more so, right? And then for location, they've got a lot of different ways to call this. It's all one and the same thing. It's just the fancy way you're naming it. So business, department, division, location, property, like we just talked about, store, territory. So they've expanded those quite a bit also.
Yeah.
That's a neat concept. So territory, I'm trying to do something with the custom fields with that for sales tracking against sales managers. We'll leave them turned on for now. And personally, the automations, my personal belief is turn them off. I do not.
I agree. Especially when it comes to the applying the credits and the invoices. Yeah. You want the control of it. Yeah.
The company we're creating is actually based off of a software development company and their billable hours. So we'll probably go in and turn this one back on. So we can make sure we're billing for all that activity. That's a great thing to do. But be cautious and take consideration before you do that. The automatically applied credits, what happens is if you're ever using any of these power tools where you're importing lots of invoices, you're importing lots of anything, if there are any credits that are pending, it's going to just throw them on the first thing it sees.
Yep.
And then what ends up happening is if it's not matching what you really wanted to do, or your vendor says, that's not what we said we paid, you have to go in and change them one by one. So that's why we take those off.
And it can make a mess. I mean, I've had clients call me up. I want to send this to my customer, but it doesn't say the right amount. And I don't know, they're showing a payment and I didn't put a payment in. And then you go in and look and find the problem.
Big part of what we'll be doing is for projects. Now, on purpose, I'm not going to turn this on quite yet, but we will want it turned on. And the reason I'm not going to turn it on yet is when you first turn it on, if let's say you're upgrading from QuickBooks Online Plus to Advanced, if you have sub-customers, that first level sub-customer, once you turn this on, it will ask you if you would like to turn those into projects instead. I think we will want to do it, but it only asks you that the first time.
Okay.
So on purpose, I'm not going to turn it on yet until I push my customer names in, and then I can make it do the magic for us on like all of them at once.
Yep.
Then time tracking. This again, we've got the ability, we can add in the service field date. So basically, that's going to basically put the date into there. So you've got the ability to set up what days you were doing different billable expenses for so they could see it on an invoice. Mm-hmm. The single time activities, if you want to show the billing rate or not, we'll show more of that in a future video as well. And then first day of the work week, pretty important, that actually comes into play for the time tracking and overtime. Mm-hmm. So this is starting to get more and more of the payroll functionality kind of baked in. So expect to see more of that in the coming future. Then we've got our currency. Really important that you choose your home currency correctly. It's going to sound really silly, but when you're in Canada and you're dealing with this, whatever your home currency is in, once you set that, if you turn on multi-currency, it stays. You're not changing anything.
Nope.
We will not be going into multi-currency at this time because I run from multi-currency every chance I get.
So do I.
It's just not as clear as we'd like it. And then this is great, the date format. I was just helping somebody the other day, and again, in Canada, the way this would be done would be quite different. It'd be like this. And it's really confusing sometimes. Especially it's like November 2nd. Is that February 11th or November 2nd? So number formatting, customer label. Again, just like the thing above, it's just all what you want to call it. Mm-hmm. Whether it's customers, clients, so forth. I like that you can do tenants. I like you can do members. It's pretty neat. Mm-hmm. Warrant if duplicate check number is used. Warrant if duplicate bill number is used.
Which is, I think, important to bill.
I think they should both be turned on, especially if you're just getting used to the program, to keep yourself from future challenges. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're going in and ever having to change a bill number because it's custom, you should have that. And then this one,
that should be on by default.
Yeah. What that is if I get up and I go to get a soda out of the fridge and then I see a shiny squirrel and I go and start to do something else, or I call Linda, if I go past that 1 hour, it will automatically log me out. So we like to put it for a longer period of time. Mm-hmm. The alternative to that, of course, is using the QuickBooks Online desktop app, which I don't see why it wouldn't work for Advanced, but I haven't even thought to try that yet.